heaven and hell exist in the mind of man. And heaven and hell are movements in the mind of man. And I don't think anyone will argue with the statement that you don't have to die to go to hell, because there's so many people who are in one kind of hell of a fix or another, right here, right now. And my philosophy, the science of living, teaches people how to gain self-mastery over the conditions of their lives by believing in themselves positively and correctly, so that you can transform your own hell into heaven. We call our philosophy the science of living. It is a form of mind science, a form of self-image psychology. I've always been a student of life, and I was born into the Baptist faith, and from there into the Pentecostal movement. And my philosophy is different, and yet it isn't, because I believe that Jesus was a teacher of self-image psychology. You see, Jesus identified himself with God. We hear him always saying, "I and my Father are one." And I just went back myself a few years ago and began to restudy Jesus and the Bible. And I came to believe in the presence of God in man. And I came to believe also that whatever Jesus is, I am. Whatever Jesus is, every man is. And so I believe that Jesus is everything that he says he is. But not only that, I believe that each man is Jesus. Each man is equally the Son of God. So there is a difference, and there isn't. I first of all tried to find the answer for myself, within myself, because this is one of the things about my philosophy. It begins with the individual. You begin with yourself. The individual is taught to come to peace with himself, within himself, to get right with himself. For example, the old evangelistic statement, get right with God. Yes, I believe in that. But I believe that a person gets right with God and gets right with his fellow man by, first of all, getting right with himself, within himself. And if a person is right with himself, honest with himself, within himself, then he will not wrong anyone else. And then I believe that if a person is truly right with himself, everyone else will be compelled to be right with him. I don't believe that anybody can even cheat you if you're really right and honest with yourself. And I find that the difficulty in getting people to follow along this line is because we're programmed to look for all causes outside of ourselves. We are programmed, for example, to blame other people and circumstances for our conditions and in all things, rather than going within ourselves and becoming at cause with our own circumstances and situation. Human nature, somehow or the other, needs a scapegoat. But I believe that the person must come to himself and become at cause within himself with the conditions and circumstances of his life. I'm happy to say that this is one of the main differences between my type of evangelism and other contemporary methods. I'm not trying to convince anybody to believe in me as an individual or to believe in any particular religious doctrine and dogma. I'm only trying to get the individual to believe in himself positively and correctly. Whatever the individual believes God to be, whatever the individual believes to be divine, I believe that that is centered within the individual. And we teach the individual to identify himself as a son of God rather than as a son of a gun. And here again is one of the places where I differ, let's say, with traditional Christian theology. Man is taught that he's a sinner, that he is a worthless worm that crawls in the dust. And I say, that's terrible self-image psychology. And the more you teach people that they're sinful, the more sinful they will be. And I believe that all of this sin preaching has contributed to the sinfulness and the delinquency and the criminality of man. But if man is taught that he is divine and that he is the Son of God, he will stop living like the devil and start living like God. And very few people break out of tradition. It isn't human nature to break out of tradition. People in general don't think for themselves. You see, we're even taught how to think. Not how to think, but what to think. And that's the big difference, you see. In my form of philosophy, I teach people how to think. But I don't tell them they must think in traditional terms. And so they never break out of the pack. But a lot of people are becoming restless. And 10 years from now, what's left of organized religion will certainly not be the same. As a man thinks, so is he. Cosmic law of mind. Because all of a person's experience of life revolves around what he believes about himself, and not what he believes about a God in the sky as such. the individual is the first unit of society, and society can be no better than the individuals who make up society. And so our cure for society must begin with the individual. The individual must have a positive belief about himself within himself. The individual must first of all be right with himself, and then he can be right with everybody else. You must know within yourself who you are and what you are and what you represent. And when you know yourself, you're not worried about false opinions. But once you teach an individual, you have it within you to be what you want to be, to do what you want to do, and to have what you want to have. This will motivate him to work toward that end. And once you believe something, all of the other right ideas and the right ways and means will come together so that you can achieve your positive goals. Let's see, our whole society has a big emphasis on money. But here again, our traditional religion, let's say, has sort of taught that money is evil. I don't believe that money is evil. If there's anything worse than the love of money, it's the lack of money. And so I have sort of retranslated the love of money is the root of all evil to read the lack of money is the root of all evil. And as long as we use money and do not permit money to use us, it's good, it's wonderful stuff. And I've had a sort of a rough time, in a sense, trying to break down people's prejudice against money. And by the way, money knows how you feel about it. Money has ears, I teach the people. Money hears what you say about it. And this is why I teach people never to say that money is hard to get. I can't hold money. Because money, like everything else, is really psychic and responds to the person's belief about it. And I've had to teach people the goodness of money, if you please.